How you doing? Neil Steele here for Neil Steele's Reviews, and today we're going to do another video on Silverback Touring. I did one a couple of weeks ago where we talked about Danny, who's the CEO of Silverback Touring, and the fact that there had been a number of cancelled tours, and it seems to be happening more than it was prior. Now look, in no way am I sticking up for the guy because, like I said, I don't know him. I know of him. I know, obviously, the Silverback thing, I know started around about a decade ago, roughly. I can't remember exactly. But, yeah, I'd never heard of the guy. Not that I know everybody in the Australian music industry, obviously. But, yeah, I'd never heard of him. I mean, at least if someone comes up, you sort of hear positive or negative stuff about that particular person, regardless of what they've done prior to whatever they're doing now. All I know about the guy was, he used to be a lawyer, which is not a good thing. I mean, how many honest lawyers do you personally know? Me, having dealt with lawyers for 40 or 50 years of my life, probably 40 years more so, I know one out of numerous lawyers I've had to deal with personally, so one. So that's not a good. That's not a good batting average for a start. And then two, he was a DJ. Well, how many DJs do you know that are? Yeah, we won't go. Yeah, any dildo can be a fucking DJ. It's not. A Duracell wind-up battery bunny could be a DJ in today's world. So yeah, not really what I'd call big positives. Anyway, regardless of that, I gave the guy with the other video, I gave him the benefit of the doubt, like I said, because I don't know him, I know of him. Was it a money issue? I wasn't sure. From what I've been told over the weekend from someone I've known in the music industry for 30 plus years, it's a money issue because there's money coming in from some of the tours, and then some of the tours aren't making the money. And there's been more tours that aren't making the money than ones that have. Plus, this particular person has a mistress in Thailand, visits her numerous times a year, but he hasn't got money to pay international acts and local acts that have provided services for him, as in tours, supports, whatever the case may be. Not to mention ticket holders from cancelled tours who still haven't been reimbursed or refunded. So there's all this shit happening there, right? And that's really negative in every way you go. But as I said, I'm not sticking up for the guy, but Danny is one of countless people like it in the Australian music industry that rip off other people. That's how they make money for themselves, because most of them are parasites and they feed off people with talent. That's how they make their fucking money. And there's lots of people like that in the music industry. And it wouldn't just be here in Australia. I'm sure it happens overseas markets, but I live here in Australia. I've dealt with some of these people in my time of being in the music industry for 40 years. Yeah, some of the people I've met are fucking stand-up people. They do the right thing. You play the gigs, you get paid, no issue, and you work with them, repeatedly because these people deliver the goods. And then the flip side is you got these people who promise you everything and don't fucking deliver. And unfortunately, that's about 90% of the people within the fucking music industry in Australia. The majority of them aren't into what you're doing. They're about making money off you. And that's where the agencies in Australia are bad, because they'll just keep flogging everybody they can to make their money. But they don't really invest in anybody. And that's a big part of the Australian music industry problem. And that's part of the problem here for Silverback Touring, because they've got a niche market where they're bringing out hard rock bands from overseas markets. Now, pretty much every act that they've brought out, I think there's a couple that they've brought out that are platinum selling acts in America. So they've sold millions of albums, right? I'm pretty sure Striper is one of those bands. John Corabi, who's now in the Dead Daisies, but was in Motley Crue, The Scream, Union. I think he was in Rat for a little while. So, yeah, we're talking about artists that have sold 1 million albums, but that's America. That's not Australia. The majority of bands that Silverback Touring have brought to Australia, as much as I like fucking most of them because I'm a hard rock metalhead, the majority of them haven't had the media, as in mainstream media exposure, A, B, investment from their record companies, and C, no radio airplay. So mainstream Australian music lovers who have been fed a diet, force-fed a diet of absolute crap pop music or alternative music via the two radio networks in Australia that are supposedly rock music radio networks, be it Triple M and Triple J. They haven't played any of these fucking acts that Silverback Touring's coming out. So it's a risk. It's a gamble. So you've got to go, oh, well, we'll bring these guys out and we'll bring these guys. Striper have toured Australia and probably sold some records here, but your average fucking punter in Australia has no fucking idea it exists unless they're over 50 years of age like me, because you remember Striper from the 80s when they toured Australia. Anyone under 50's never fucking heard of them because they've never been on the radio. So this is part of the problem, not just for Silverback, and I'm not just sticking up for them. This is just to outline it so your average person knows what the fuck's going on. Bringing any act out from overseas to tour Australia is a gamble. Obviously, the big promoters will bring out Guns N' Roses and AC/DC, Metallica and, I don't know, Nickelback and fucking Taylor Swift and whoever, right? ABBA, let's say. All those bands have all had success, all have had radio airplay. Therefore, people have heard them. Then you go back to what Silverback's trying to do, which is a niche market, bringing out hard rock bands. They brought out, like I said, Striper got a name. John Corabi's got a name because of Motley Crue and Dead Daisies. He's been with Dead Daisies now for like a decade or whatever. And then you've got other bands that they've brought out. Lynch Mob, which I'm a fucking huge Lynch Mob fan. And they've been around for like 30 years and put out half a dozen albums, if not more. And George Lynch used to be the guitar player in a band called Dokken from the LA explosion back in the mid-'80s, where you had Dokken, Motley Crue, Wasp, Quiet Riot, Faster Pussycat, LA Guns, etc., etc., etc. All those sort of bands. Poison, I suppose you'd throw in there, Warrant. So all those bands had names back in the 80s. So people my age know them. Anyone under 50 has no fucking idea any of these bands exist. So if you bring them to Australia, you're only going to get a niche market to go see them. And that's part of the problem with Silverback. But that's one side of it. The other side is, look, the dude's done the wrong thing. He fucking owes people money. And look, he's going to get his comeuppance, so to speak. He's going to be on TV tomorrow night here in Australia on Channel 9, free-to-air TV station. There's a show called A Current Affair, 7 p.m. tomorrow night, which is Thursday the 18th of June. There's going to be a story feature on Silverback Touring and Daddy. So you need to watch it. Overseas viewers, listeners of this podcast, video, whatever you want to call it. Look, someone's going to post it on social media once it goes up on TV. Anyway, here in Australia, it'll be on Facebook, YouTube, whatever, so you'll be able to see. I'm sure there's people in America within the music scene there that know of Silverback because there's been a number of acts from America come here and get ripped off. Yeah, and that's just fucking the way. So, hey, it's karma. You can't keep screwing people over. Eventually it's going to come around and bite you on the ass. So that's the way it goes. Anyway, that's me. That's that. I'll be watching the TV tomorrow night the same as you. All right, catch you later. Cheers.